Hello guys, my name is Missing Utah and welcome back to another video. And this looks like Dragon Ball Z Evolution, but that's just the background for a theory I have on what would happen if Piccolo could use the Kaio-Ken. Now I know people have done this, but I just wanted to offer my own take on it. It's kind of an interesting subject. And I'm saying Piccolo only, not humans. For the simple reason that their base powers are so low that Kaio-Ken wouldn't make a difference. I mean, seriously, think about it. Even if Krillin is somehow when they're fighting Frieza, even if Krillin is somehow at the 75,000 official power, and there is no possible way he could have, even though there's no possible way he could have advanced from like 15,000 after the unlock to that much in such a short time, even with that impossible level, Kaio-Ken still wouldn't do much for him, because we are going to use one figure a lot here, Goku and when he goes to fight the Ginyu Force. Now, in the translation I've read, Goku's base power is said to be 60,000, and I've seen this in several different translations, so his base power was actually 60,000, not 90,000. So, that means that the thresholds for Kaio-Ken are a bit lower than some might think. Also, at least in the translation I've read, he says that he might be able to he thinks he might even be able to pull off a Kaio-Ken times 10. And this also this means that his power is still 180,000 when he powers up against Ginyu, meaning that he can actually pull off the Kaio-Ken times 3, something he wasn't sure if he could even do earlier. He can now pull that off very easily at a 60,000 power. Krillin, even if he did know Kaio-Ken, and I know he couldn't have, this is just for explanation. Even if he somehow did, then it still wouldn't do much to him, because at a power of only 25,000, he would not be able to pull off that 10 times Kaio-Ken, because Goku's attitude about the 10 times meant that to me, it sounded like he thought he could do it, but that was definitely the best he could do. He couldn't do anything more. So that means that Krillin could not pull that off. So that means even with Kaio-Ken, he wouldn't be able to reach half of, even with that 75,000 power. Actually, what am I saying? Not 25,000, it was 75,000. So, I mean that he could pull that off. But even then, he probably wouldn't even reach Frieza's second form with that Kaio-Ken. And later in the series, by the time the people are able to reach truly huge multipliers, remember that the humans don't have transformations. They don't even have anything like a Zenkai. The closest you get is King Kai's planet. And Krillin doesn't even go on that one. So honestly, I think that by the time their Kaio-Ken multipliers are similar to those of Super Saiyans, the Super Saiyans' base powers have just gotten so high that it still doesn't matter. They might be able to matter a little longer in the series, but it really doesn't matter. Piccolo, however, is interesting because not only is he more powerful than the humans, he gets all of his power from base power. He has no transformations of any kind. Or at least no temporary transformations if you count fusion as a transformation. So, especially in the Cell arc, he was able to achieve a power similar to that of the Super Saiyans in the Cell games without having a transformation. So, that would make Kaio-Ken immensely useful. So I'm going to give several hypotheses for what would happen if Piccolo knew Kaio-Ken. So, at the very beginning, my first hypothesis is Piccolo gets revived, goes to Namek, decides he doesn't need Nail, he's too overconfident, and flies off to face Frieza. Because I'm fairly certain that Piccolo already didn't quite seem to think he really needed Nail's help. If he had the Kaio-Ken, I think he definitely wouldn't have taken it. So, but that would make for a very short video, so I'm going to assume for a lot of it that he did take the offer still of fusion, but if not, then really, I think basically, if he doesn't though, then let's assume his power was about 30 to 70,000. I know that's a huge range, and that's intentional to account for all of the people's beliefs about what his power might be. So if he was at 30,000, let's start there. I'd say that he could pull off a Kaio-Ken times. He could pull off something like a times. Goku could pull off a times 2 at 8,000 power. I'd say this might be enough to pull off a 4 or 5 times pretty consistently. But we know that wouldn't nearly be enough, because Frieza's power is 530,000. A power of 150 to 180,000 would be dead weight, especially when Vegeta, whose power was around 500,000 at the time, is already there. So let's assume that maybe he can pull off a Kaio-Ken times 10, but only for a very short time. Maybe for one attack, it'd probably make him pass out or something, as such a low power, but he can do it. He can do it. So let's say he can do this, and so he decides to go all out against Frieza. But if his power is 30,000, doesn't matter, because that's only a 300,000 power. So that means even a strong attack would maybe be as effective as a punch, and I feel as a punch from Vegeta at the time, and I feel like a Makoko Sapo would not only take too long to charge. I just don't get the sense that an attack that takes so long to charge could be used easily with a Kaio-Ken. If it was, then he might be able to kill Frieza in this instance. But I really don't see that happening unless he gets extremely lucky. Now, if his base is more like 70,000, then things start to change for him. First, he's above Goku's power of 60,000, so that means he can use the Kaio-Ken times 10. He can definitely use it, and it might be a bit too much for him, but it definitely wouldn't knock out or kill him. And he can probably, and so I think that he could definitely pull off possibly something like a 5 or 6 or even 7 times for almost the whole battle even. I think he could do, or at least very frequently, I think he could do something like that. So that would mean his power would be around 300 to 350,000 for most of the fight. Not equal to Frieza, definitely, but with Vegeta already there, they might be able to win. If you used a Kaio-Ken times 10 or something, or even a little higher and got lucky, and Frieza still hadn't transformed, then he could do some real damage to him, because his power would be somewhere around 700,000 against Frieza's 530. If Frieza transformed, though, Piccolo would be pretty much screwed. Now let's imagine that he does take the offer. In this case, I think things would go pretty similarly to, I think he'd kill Frieza very easily. There are already a video by the very famous YouTuber Kwaman's Land. I think he's a very good YouTuber. He already did a video about what would happen, and I feel like if I spent a long time doing this, then that would be redundant. So let's assume that somehow Piccolo doesn't kill Frieza. Let's assume that he takes too long to use the Kaio-Ken. Perhaps for some reason holding off until Frieza is 50% full, until he needs to help Goku charge up the Spirit Bomb. In my opinion, that would actually be the only thing that could make the holding off Frieza scene believable, because their power gaps are so wide otherwise. So I think that's the only thing that makes this reasonable in the series. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. So really, I think that, but for whatever reason, he doesn't kill him. Heck, maybe he even dies during the 3-year gap in the Android arc, gets revived. All this happens off screen because they have so long, and yeah, and I know they say they can't gather up the Dragon Balls in 3 years, but that is one of the biggest plot holes in the series. That's, considering how fast they gathered the Dragon Balls before, I think that's an even bigger time fail, maybe, than even the 5-minute fight between Goku and Frieza. I think that is even worse. But anyway, so for whatever reason, this doesn't happen. So if he knows the Kaio-Ken by the time Mecha Frieza comes to Earth, then Future Trunks will still come, because Mecha Frieza wasn't the reason he was there, but we won't get to see him turn Super Saiyan or kill Frieza. Possibly. Because remember that Piccolo's power is at least 1.5 million at this point. I think we can all agree on that. And that it might even be closer to 2.5 or even 3 million after a year. Possibly even higher than that. So that is some real power right there. And with the Kaio-Ken, that would mean his base is probably similar to Goku's base when he used the Kaio-Ken times 20. It wouldn't give him the power to kill Mecha Frieza, but it would give him the power to hold him off. And if he used the Mechanical Sapo, then it would definitely kill him. So it could possibly, if Future Trunks doesn't arrive for some reason or arrives at a different time, even if that happened, then I think the Earth would still survive until Goku got there. Piccolo would be able to hold him off. I don't think Piccolo would have enough power to beat Mecha Frieza, though, since he probably couldn't pull off more than times 20. So the next idea is then the androids will come. Piccolo, I think, Piccolo has become significantly more powerful due to the Kaio-Ken, but he's still going to train just as hard as he ever did, I think. He knows he's still not as powerful as Super Saiyan Goku, and he overheard Trunks talking to Goku. He knows that the androids were powerful enough to kill Super Saiyans, so he knows he needs to train no matter what. Then, after that, it depends on how much power you think they gained in that gap, in the 3-year gap. I think that a lot of people, I think, would tend to say I overestimate training gaps, but I don't think I do, because I think he definitely would have gained enough power to destroy androids 19 and 20 easily. Vegeta probably wouldn't even have to go Super Saiyan, because I think he was already pretty equal to Dr. Gero anyway in the Seer, even without the Kaio-Ken. With the Kaio-Ken and a boosted power that might let him perform a 30 or even 40 times Kaio-Ken, he's getting wrecked. However, with his base still so similar to that of a Saiyan, I don't think that would give him enough power to turn the tide of the android attack. Goku is still suffering from a heart virus, and I think Vegeta would be too prideful to let Piccolo aid him. If he did, then the androids could probably both be killed. I think 17 and 18 could be killed. 16 they definitely have a harder time with, since I don't think Piccolo would be quite the equal of Vegeta. But I think they could defeat an android together. They could destroy like 18 or something. But again, I don't think Vegeta would agree to that, because he's got way too much pride for that to happen. So assuming that things go as they normally do, like Piccolo could fight Android 17, but it would be similar, but he'd get beaten pretty quick. Not in one punch, but it would definitely be a losing battle. The big thing is if he fuses with Kami. Because remember that they still can't beat the androids. Partially because of Vegeta's power, partially because of Vegeta's pride, partially because of the android's power. I think a lot of it would be Android 16's power, because he's stronger than 17 and 18, but also Cell's threat. I think a combination of those factors would mean that Piccolo would still fuse with Kami. And boy, would he be powerful then. Because you'll remember that Piccolo was, even in the main series, more powerful than Super Saiyan Vegeta for a time after he fused with Kami. If he had Kaio-Ken, he would become... It'd be ridiculous. He'd become like the Super Saiyan god of his time, almost. Maybe not that far, but he would be very powerful. Because first his Kaio-Ken level would increase. And since he gains so much power, I think he might be able to perform at least, maybe like even a 75 or something ridiculous like that. That would be enough to destroy Cell in their first encounter, regeneration or not, and destroy the androids immediately after, with almost nothing bad happening. Even if Cell can somehow still go perfect, for example, Piccolo decide for some reason Piccolo is not there for the fight with Cell and it's just Vegeta. Even if that somehow happens, I still think Piccolo would be able to beat perfect Cell. Because remember that, again, at this point, his Kaio-Ken is more powerful than the Super Saiyan transformation, and he was already stronger than the Super Saiyan at base anyway. So, I really do think that he's stronger than Perfect Cell, even without going into the Hyperbolic Time Chamber. That would make him stronger than Perfect Cell, maybe even Super Perfect Cell. And that would change some things. Vegeta, due to his pride, might still go into the Hyperbolic Time Chamber to become a... Actually, I think that they'd still try to achieve greater forms than Super Saiyan, but I don't think they do it in the Hyperbolic Time Chamber, because there'd be no need for Popo to show them its existence. There'd be no need, and since there'd be no need, I don't think he'd show them. So, that would be... They wouldn't train the Hyperbolic Time Chamber. And as a result, Gohan might not go Super Saiyan at all. That would be a very big difference. But, it wouldn't mean much. His Super Saiyan form doesn't do that much in the Buu arc, except a little fight against Dabura, that Piccolo probably could have completed on his own after he trained. Because he might even still train after that. And training or no training, I still think he could beat Dabura. And again, he'd probably still train. But, so he'd beat that fight that Gohan had. As a Super Saiyan, in a Super Saiyan form, Gohan didn't do much. And I'm saying didn't do much because I know there's the fight with Cell, but Cell is dead. Cell's already dead. And his ultimate power would still be the same, because I feel like Elder Kai is unlocking all his potential, or at least very close to it. So, it wouldn't matter if he'd weakened. Maybe it'd add a couple more hours, but in any case, Gohan would not be missed. Goku, however, might be, because he wouldn't die, and he wouldn't go in the HTC, and he wouldn't die to train on King Kai's planet and with the Otherworld people. And I think that actually did majorly improve his strength. I think not training in the Hyperbolic Time Chamber may be enough of a difference that he would not achieve Super Saiyan 3. I really do think that, because that's still a year off his training. And since he was so new to Super Saiyan 3, I really don't think he could have had it for more than a year before going back to the normal world. Because he would have been able to maintain it for longer if he could do that. If he had it for that long, I think. Because some people will say that it's an inherent flaw of Super Saiyan 3 itself, but I just think the characters never got powerful enough in the series to really use it. So, before they became gods and all that. Or ultimates or stuff like that, so just a second, sorry about that. And anyway, so there's not an inherent flaw in the technique, but Goku wouldn't be strong enough to use it, I don't think. Maybe he could discover it, but I don't think he'd be able to use it long enough to use in a fight before Buu showed up, basically. And Piccolo, even if he didn't train, I think he'd still be able to provide the necessary energy for Buu to be unleashed, if they could goad him into fighting. Especially since I don't think he'd be so scared of the Supreme Kai anymore. They might fight. And if they do, I think that could provide enough energy, or at least close to it. And his fight with Dabra that might happen, and stuff like that. So if Boo is still released, then I think we got a problem on our hands. Because if Piccolo's been training intensely like Goku did during these years, then I think that he could do it. I think he might be able to... Yeah, I think he might be strong enough to pull off something big, but I don't think he could match a 400 times Kaio-Ken. I don't think that would be possible. Maybe 200 times after 7 years. 200, maybe even 300, but not the 400 he needs. And the HTC, I think, made people... I really think that basically, Piccolo might be equal to Super Saiyan 3 Goku. He might be able to beat Majin Buu, but he might not, in my opinion. He might not. If he can, then events proceed as normal for a little bit, until then Super Buu is still eventually created. Super Buu. So, Buu is created. Super Buu is created. And I definitely don't think Piccolo has enough power to beat this one. And I think, basically, the reason I'm saying he doesn't have that sort of power is because the Super Saiyan multipliers just go so much faster than Kaio-Ken, I think. I mean, it is much... The difference between, I feel like, basically, the difference between... At a power of 8,000, Goku could perform the Kaio-Ken times 3, but not comfortably. He could do it comfortably at Kaio-Ken time at a base power of 60,000. But even though he said he could even do a Kaio-Ken times 10 at that point, even with a 50 times boost in base power, he still had trouble doing even a times 20. So I think it's a little more exponential. And so even if he could match a Super Saiyan multiplier and be stronger than Goku, I don't know. If he could somehow have the potential to become even stronger than Goku was, possibly fight Super Buu on his own, that's another thing I just realized. Goku would not have been in the afterlife, so he wouldn't know the fusion technique. And he can't teach it to Gotenks as a result. So, Piccolo, I think, could be at Gotenks level, possibly. Because I've always felt that Gotenks is like twice as strong as Goku around. He might be at that level. I think he's between Goku and Gotenks. And at that point, he just wouldn't have the strength to beat Super Buu, and without fusion, neither would anybody else. If Supreme Kai was still happy enough with the Z Fighters after his possible fight with Piccolo to show off the Potara earrings, then they might be able to do... Then they, I think, could still beat him, but I think Super Buu would defeat Piccolo. And if he absorbed Piccolo, then that would be bad. Because, like, maybe not super bad, because their forms don't seem... Buu doesn't seem to be able to make them transform, but it would still be bad just because no one left would have the power to win. And so, that basically brings us to the end of this. If Piccolo knew the Kaio-Ken, or the Kaio-Ken, that means that he would either be killed by Frieza, kill Frieza and produce Kwaman's if Piccolo killed Frieza video, or Buu would destroy the planet. And that is it for this video, guys. See y'all next time. Hope you enjoyed.